to the Microschools Show, your window on the global microschools movement. Whether you're a teacher with a dream to build a school of your own or a parent looking for a school that suits your amazing kid, you're sure to be inspired by the creativity and innovation of our guests. I'm your host, Dr. Mara Leineberger. The Microschools Show was launched to feature guests from all over the globe who have championed personalized learning for students by building a microschool of their own, as well as to spotlight some of the key players in the microschools movement. Today, I'm talking with Beth Kinzer, who is owner of Ignite Learning Center and Ignite Microschool in Greer, South Carolina. Welcome to the show, Beth.
Hi, thanks for having me today. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk with you.
Oh, you're welcome. So, Beth, tell us a bit more about yourself and what
Oh,
inspired you to create Ignite.
okay. Well, I have been in education for more than 25 years. In the last 18 years that I was involved with the school were in Greenville, South Carolina at a private school. And while there, I worked as a kindergarten teacher, and then I directed the preschool at the school, and then moved into elementary principal and director of curriculum instruction. Um, so I've had lots of opportunities to work with teachers and work with kids that are of a variety of elementary and middle school ages. The school was a K-3 through 8th grade school. So in working with the teachers, we really worked on bringing in understanding by design and creating problem-based units that we work backwards from big ideas and fully integrated the language arts, math, social studies, and science into the units. But we found even as working with understanding by design, trying to create innovative models of education, even in a private school where we have more control over the calendar and the school day than the public schools might have, it was still very difficult for us to make the changes that we wanted. And one thing that I found was that, the parents who are already enrolled in a private school, they came with expectations of things that they expected. And for some parents, learning that looks different and assessment that's different is hard for them. And unless we can really explain to them exactly what the changes are and how we're going to manage it, it seemed to raise anxiety in some parents. And so even though we were successful in doing it, I felt like we could take it even further. And when I left the school, thought about opening a micro school originally, but there were some personal things that were going on in my life and didn't feel like I had the time to really be able to build what I wanted. And so after a couple of years of tutoring and working with kids one-on-one, decided that we would open a nonprofit STEM center and be able to meet the needs of kids through science, technology, engineering, art, and math. And we've had 2 summers of summer camps. And last year we had after school classes that, we opened up a center for. And this year decided, due to COVID and other things going on, that this would be a good year to open up the micro school and add that to as daytime programming to what we were doing in the summers and in the afternoons.
That's really exciting. I actually have a number of clients who started out doing summer camps and other kind of workshops or services for kids, and then started to
Mhm.
have families ask them to work with their children full time. So your
Right.
story is not entirely unique, but it's very exciting to hear that you've been able to expand your current, your previous offerings into something more like what people are used to seeing in school. But
Right.
tell us a little bit about what's different about Ignite Micro School.
Mhm. Um, the micro school is set up to collaborate with parents who are homeschooling. So we are a Monday through Thursday school, and the parents are responsible for homeschooling on Fridays. We have students ages K-5 up through fourth grade this year. And so it's a multi-age setting, and I'm writing and implementing curriculum for all of the children. So the children are receiving the curriculum that they need, working on the skills that they need, but also allowing them to move faster in areas that are their strengths. So we're not waiting for everybody to be at the same spot. We're moving forward and allowing kids to really to thrive and feel like they're achieving things that they couldn't achieve in the classroom.
Yeah, you talked a little bit about the sort of challenges you had as far as autonomy were concerned when you were in the private school. What do you think? And then becoming an administrator, it's kind of rare to go backwards and
Right.
step into the teacher realm again. And in fact, for many of us, and I count myself included, once I became an administrator, I thought about going back to the classroom, and
Mhm.
no school district would have me because they told me I was too experienced and too expensive, which
Oh.
personally I think is ridiculous. Now, I did go teach in a one-room schoolhouse off the coast of Maine, um, but that was sort of a special situation. I think having your own micro school and being able to go back into the classroom and have it be exactly the way that you want with all that
Mhm.
experience must feel pretty amazing. What's it like?
It does feel pretty amazing. I'd say that these first couple months have been a whole lot of work as far as getting the curriculum together, working on units for different ages of kids. It reminds me of my first couple years in the classroom. Finding everything and putting it together the way I want. And as so many micro school builders know, it's not just the classroom that's taking up a lot of time. It's not just planning instruction and working with the kids, but when you add on all of the financial aspects of it, when you add on, making sure that you've got your insurance covered, that you've got your, working with the IRS and dealing with, all of the needs that you've never done before, because even at the STEM center we weren't at a point yet in those a year and a half that we were actually bringing in enough income for me to have a salary. We were paying summer assistants and that sort of thing. So just working through all of that, on top of planning your curriculum, has definitely been overwhelming, and I'm learning skill sets that I just didn't have.
Yeah, it's part of why we do what we do, why
Mhm.
Micro School Builders exists, is to help with all those things you talked about so that you're not doing it in isolation and you're not alone. Um, but I'm curious, like, talk a little bit about what a day looks like at Ignite. So,
Yeah.
who's coming to school with you those
Mhm.
4 days a week? How many kids, or just give us a feeling of like what is a day like?
Yeah. Right now, we are actually operating out of my home. We had the STEM center that we had. The timing of COVID was not good. We had to make a decision about keeping the lease on that center back in March, and that was right when COVID hit. And we weren't sure about what in-person programming was going to be like, and then being able to find the time and being able to actually go into other buildings and find something that would work well for us. We just couldn't do it. And so we kind of backed up a little bit, and the school is at my house. And South Carolina Department of Social Services limits that to 6 children in a home. They consider us to be a family care center instead of a school. There wasn't a box for DSS for a school that was in a home. So we have that six kid limit. Right now, I have four that we're started with. We have a kindergartner, we've got a third grader, and two fourth graders. Um, the kids come at 9 and we work until 2 o'clock. All the children have a set of independent work that they are responsible for scheduling and timing throughout the day. Most of them stick with trying to do that in the morning and getting that done. Some of it's one on one with me. some of it's independent work that they're doing regarding, journaling, silent reading, those sorts of things that they are managing. And then most of the late morning, afternoon is spent on whole group STEM learning, art projects, working on novels together. Next week, we're going to be starting Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, so the first Harry Potter book. And so this week, we've really been talking about setting up a plot. What does a plot look like? How do you, how do you develop characters? And then we'll be moving into reading that novel together. And the good thing about Harry Potter is most of you all know we'll be able to bring in a lot of STEM things, talk about potions, be able to create wands that light up, look at static electricity and the ability to levitate and those sorts of things. So looking forward to that. So really what we're doing is, is a combination of independent work, one-on-one with me, and then that's that larger group opportunity for STEM and hands-on and exciting learning.
You talked a little bit about scaling back, and I think it's such a powerful message for other potential school owners out there.
Mm-hmm.
You try an idea, you see if it works, and your STEM center, it sounds like it was working, but then with COVID, it wasn't going to work because people weren't necessarily looking for something after school. What people wanted was something in place of school, and because you're working in such a small manner, you've been able to maintain that sort of the COVID guidelines for safe gatherings, I'm guessing. And so
Yeah.
you're functioning as you're kind of a pandemic pod, but I love the fact that you have a mindset that you're a micro school, because that allows you to think about growing once this is all over. And right now you're mapping out how that all will work. So very powerful, Beth. I'm excited for you. And I love the literature study. I bet you didn't have time to do that in the classroom. I remember I read that same book to my third grade class the year that it came out, and so I'm really dating myself. Um, but that was still at a time where I could do that, and I mean, it wasn't part of our reading or required reading, but it was 15 minutes that I took every day after recess to help the
Mhm.
kids settle down and get ready for the afternoon work. And it was probably the favorite time of the day for most kids. Uh, I think within 2 or 3 weeks, about half of the kids in the class had gotten their parents to buy them a copy. It was stored away in their desks. And interestingly enough, they were not reading ahead. Uh, and I remember even having a kid come back um, when she was in high school and saying how much that reading that book together had changed her life, that she had gone on to read all of the other subsequent books herself. And then when J.K. Rowling finished the series, she went to a librarian and asked for recommendations on what else to read.
Mhm.
So, we just never know how we can change a kid's life. So what kind of plans do you have as far as growing Ignite, or will Ignite stay this small micro school that you run from your home? What do you think?
Oh, the goal is to definitely grow Ignite, to get back into a location where we're able to meet the needs of more kids. Um, right now we're set where we are, and we are also running after school STEM programs. So after the micro school, we do have some robotics classes and things where kids do come in. Um, Kind of looking at what the summer is going to look like right now. Yesterday afternoon, I applied for a grant that is a possibility for us for next summer, which would provide the funding for us to meet one of our goals of outreach, of outreach STEM programming. So we kind of have a two-prong programming goals of having in-house programming where kids come to the center for after school classes. The micro school would be there, and then also that outreach component. And I think how we're going to look at COVID as a blessing is we had to scale back the in-house services, and this summer really try to work towards outreach programming, so that we can, given the limited space we have, that, that can kickstart that outreach programming faster than it would have if we were focusing on building the in-person programming. And that also frees up some of the funds that we were spending on rent and those sorts of things, able to then put towards that outreach programming. So, we'll see what happens. We'll see how many kids, if families are interested in the micro school next year. Getting a group of families who are really excited about it, and tapping into maybe their resources. A family that's excited about it may say, "Yay! We've got a building that we could use, that would be able for you to be able to expand quicker for the micro school, and that would be awesome if we need to stay where we are for another year, and allow for me to learn from the mistakes I've made, and get another year under my belt before we push forward. That's okay too. So we're just in that mode of, let's kind of get through January into February, start to see what people are interested in, and make planning plans that way. And then
Yeah, we
also,
we we
go ahead.
talk with our clients about that is incubating your idea. So,
Mhm.
what's really great about you starting or scaling back to your home space is it lowers your overhead, which makes it much easier to uh, pay yourself. You're not
Oh,
having to pay for a rental,
yeah.
and
Mhm.
there are deductions you can take for running something out of your home. Now, there are some additional liabilities you have, of course, with needing to make sure you're well insured, but it's a great way to start. And I love hearing you say that you're going to be working with your families to find the next space because, there's so much power in involving your foundational families and having them help you decide the next iteration of what you do.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're excited about that. And Ignite is a 501(c)(3), so we had already established that, which does allow us to apply for grants in the STEM area, and then also as a homeschool opportunity for other kids. And so we were also got a grant from the Homeschool Defense League this fall to help with the micro school also, which was a huge blessing. Um, so already being established in those ways did help with, as far as the whole overall business organization, and knowing what we needed to do. So that kind of does set us apart, and really, moving from the business location to the house significantly reduced our insurance cost, as you just mentioned there. Um, Even though we definitely have it, and the schools that are that are starting up, I know it's hard to find that insurance, but definitely worth it, just in case there's that any one accident or anything that were to happen.
Yeah, it's funny. I don't think it's an option. It's a requirement.
Yeah.
I've talked to a few people who didn't have proper licensure or proper um, insurance, and they've run into some serious snags. So that's
Yeah.
not an option, and to have it be a less expensive option is certainly a good thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so what else do you want us to know about Ignite that you
Okay.
haven't told us so far?
Um, Kind of going back to the purpose, another purpose for why I started Ignite. Working with families in the school setting where I was, one of my roles was meeting with families after maybe a child had a diagnosis of a learning disability, dyslexia, or an other neurodivergent uh, set, or a child that has a neurodivergent way of learning. Um, and it was really, really hard for me to look at a family and say, the way our school is set up, we don't have the teachers, we don't have the space to allow your child to thrive here. And then to have to look at a parent and say, really, there aren't that many options in Greenville for you. So, one thing that I really want Ignite to do is be that place where a child who is dyslexic, a child who doesn't learn typically, has a place where they feel like they are thriving. Because we don't have to focus on learning just from a language base. We can learn through our engineering challenges. We can, coding. learning to code our robotics, our Lego robotics involves language, but it involves language in a way that a neurodivergent child is successful. They don't have that stress of worrying about spelling. They don't have that stress of worrying maybe about their written expression. They can work in their strengths. And so moving forward, that's definitely an area that we want to focus in on with families and with kids, so that we're meeting a need not just for specific families, but also for the community, because that opportunity just doesn't exist.
Yeah, I have found with all of the schools that we work with, um, kids who typically had a diagnosis or an IEP in the traditional school setting, that kind of falls to the wayside because there is this ability of a micro school educator, whatever you would call yourself, owner, teacher, educator, guide, um, this ability to tailor the instruction, to tailor the learning experiences to each child.
Mhm.
And my guess, Beth, having taught for a similar amount of time, it's really satisfying to finally be able to actually go at the rate that works for the child.
Yeah, it does. It definitely does. Um, the 5-year-old I'm working with is very gifted in math, so we are already adding and subtracting, and using regrouping with him, and so he's moving forward there. But he does come from a family that is a non-English speaking family. They're Vietnamese, and so while his oral language is very good, his his reading, his phonetic skills were not where they needed to be, just because of that language barrier. And he only has one parent at home who speaks English. So we're able then to work with those strengths and with those weaknesses. And the blessing is that he would have been home doing virtual education this year if it wasn't for Ignite. And for him, that just wouldn't have been successful at all, because the only person at home with him during the day was his grandmother, who only speaks Vietnamese. And so you have a 5-year-old that now is in a position to thrive, and is in a position to really excel, not only with his math, but also with his language. We've really gotten him to a place where, he's sounding out short vowel sound words. We're adding some long vowel sounds in there. So even in this short period of time, we're able to grow and to really take him to a place where he loves learning.
Well, I loved hearing that you are allowing him to accelerate his math. So often, you know, we in our public school settings, our private school
Mhm,
settings, we tend to work more on remediating the weak skills, not
mhm.
realizing that when we accelerate the skills that kids are really excited about,
Right.
we keep them excited about learning.
Mhm. Right. So he is excited about it. We have another student who math is a weakness for, and so that child's able to back up and really focus on the basics. Had not learned addition and subtraction facts very well, and so applying that to um, other areas of math has been difficult. So we've been able to back up, find ways for that child to learn their facts without worrying about time tests, and find ways for that knowledge to solidify, and then move forward.
Yeah. Before we started recording, you told me that, or actually, it was early on in the recording. You said something about there aren't a lot of options in Greenville. Can you speak a little bit to that? What
Mhm.
kind of options does a family in Greenville, South Carolina, have when it comes to their child's education?
Um, there is one school that's specific for dyslexic students, and that's a private school. And of course, it costs close to $20,000 a year, because of this, the special education that they're getting, and the small classrooms. And besides that, there's a handful of private schools. Most of those are Christian schools. There is one large um, Catholic school that is, that's here in Greenville. But other than that, most of the schools, of even the private schools, have a population that's under 500, and most of them are closer to 200, 250 kids. um, So besides that, we have a public education, and we're in South Carolina. So overall, South Carolina is not ranked very highly nationally, as most of y'all know. The Greenville County schools are better. And a lot of parents really trust, especially their elementary schools, because a lot of the schools are located in neighborhoods, and they feel like they have a parents feel like they have a connection with the classroom teachers. And so I found even that parents have a lot of loyalty to their local elementary schools, in looking at the micro school and in kind of trying to decide what age groups we were going to serve. There were more upper middle and ninth grade families who were looking for something. I didn't feel like, as far as my teaching experience, I was ready for that. Definitely want to move Ignite, the micro school, up in the future. But right now, I didn't feel comfortable teaching AP Algebra 1, or any AP classes, or anything like that. So I just wanted to focus on the elementary kids. Um, so and if you look especially at kids that have IEPs, Greenville County does not do a great job in serving those kids. Um, there are no self-contained classes for dyslexia students. Most of the classes do have resource options, but really the only self-contained are emotional behavioral disorder classrooms. And so there's very, very few kids that need that. And if a child is placed in there because for a neurodivergent, or possibly Asperger's, on the spectrum with Asperger's, that child doesn't get the chance to really thrive. That child really doesn't feel successful, and is not getting what they need. So, um, overall, I would say that Ignite is unique in that we're looking for, that small population of kids who will, find a place, a community where they loves to learn. And so that's really, we seem to be the one place right now, in Greenville that's doing it.
That's really exciting. I'm always happy to hear that people are creating new spaces that are truly in service to the specific uniqueness of each child. And it sounds like Ignite's doing that. Beth, it's crazy. The 30 minutes goes so fast. We are almost at that 30-minute mark. So I'm going to wrap up by saying, if you want to get in touch with Liz, you can reach out to her through her website, which is www.igniteingenuity.org.
Mhm.
Correct?
Correct. That's it. Yep.
Good, good. Thanks so much, everybody, for listening to today's show. If you'd like to be a guest on the show and to talk about your own microschool, or to share the work that you're doing in the microschools movement, please reach out to me at mara@microschoolbuilders.com to set up your interview. And until next time, be well.